right? We gambling with money that doesn't have anything to support us to cash it in,
Okay.
right? So we use the monopoly money, and we trying to get people to do business with us with monopoly money, and as if it's real,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
they were only credits to float the banking system to administer this artificial government. This corporate government was what the real bankruptcy was about. The
Okay.
government went bankrupt. The banker stepped in and gave them loans. Then they foreclosed on the loans because the corporate government couldn't pay the loans back. Then when they took over, they used the Congress to pass a series of bills, the Federal Reserve Act, the Buck Act, the Internal Revenue Act, the United States tax codes. All of that came out together as part of a means to turn us into debt servants, put us under contractual slavery, because everybody know debt equals slavery.
Right.
So and the good credit score means you've been a good slave.
Ooh. Mm.
So they know who they can trust to give larger and larger amounts of access to the credit without having to use their indemnity account.
Mm.
They trade that in the international market and batch roll birth certificates, right? Wall Street was always founded on human trafficking. When they talk about pork bellies, they talk about babies,
Wow.
right? When they talk about all of those are codes, ain't none of that stuff what they telling you.
Okay.
And then now they phantom trading because Wall Street been shut down for a couple of years, so they phantom trading. They just making up numbers to make it look like it's some real trading going on.
Wow. I did not know that.
I've been telling people that for years. I was saying, if you get you a good stock, hurry up and ride it and cash out because they just phantom trade,
Mm.
right?
Mm. Right.
So while they phantom trading, they ain't telling you that they got caught laundering over $1 trillion in drug money, $1 trillion in international illegal firearm sales, $1 trillion and over $1 trillion in proceeds derived directly from the trafficking in humans. All of this is on the record. It ain't even no secret.
Mm. Mm. So
But
we're
they
not
ain't
just making this up. Go ahead.
yeah, but they're not gonna talk about it on the news,
Right. Right.
right? But the World Court already came out and gave their findings.
Mm.
They had one of the judges was assigned to tell us. He came out and told us, and we seen it. We just thought, oh, that's a nice little thing you just said, and kept going on about our business. Everything
Ooh.
that we be telling people, the people that's really telling them what's going on, they not being listened to. But the ones that's giving them misdirection and running David Copperfield tricks on them the ones they focus on.
Mm.
And the ones that they can gossip about. Now, that's the biggest thing because we love gossip so much that anything that they can throw out there it's like throwing a bone for a dog to chase while you break into the house. You know, we chase the gossip to our own detriment.
Mm.
Look, the people that need to be worried about their own self-liberation know more about Puffy Case than they know about the movement of the Federal Reserve.
That's so true.
They can tell you inside and out the whole of the Puffy Case, but they can't tell you that the tribe's been systematically doing step-by-step reclaiming of the land for the last 10 years and show you each step of the way where it was being done.
Mm-hmm.
And it was being done in everybody's face. They said we had a right to use our system, the oral tradition, to take everything back. So I've been using the oral tradition to systematically take everything back. And they've been giving Empress Redbird all the receipts. The foundational documents in which the fraud is built on in order to use the fruit of the poison tree doctrine, all of the ones that follow are also null and void. So they gave her the paperwork, right, Sending good vibes to Empress Redbird, by the way. She in seclusion right now. So, but she watch you. She love your show, and yeah. So I told her I was talk to you about getting her on here one day.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. People been telling me about her as well. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
she's very important to the land because okay, so people know about allodial titles, but what they don't know is the tribes never needed a title. That's European in origin. So when the Europeans staked the claim over here, the king of England, the king of France, and the king of Spain signed off on allodial contracts, which is allotted by royal families to the lords. The lords become the landlords, the land barons.
Okay.
Then the systematic way to keep you from ever striking out against them is to create a structure, and they give you what's called a property tax system. And they allow you to make it up to pay your own taxes on your own, and that way you don't feel like you being forced to pay for land that can't nobody buy or sell.
Mm.
You can only be appointed a portion of territory according to your capabilities to work the land. If you're not a farmer and you in the city talking about when we gonna get our land back, you're not finna go to no farmer and do that hard ass work. Don't even worry about it.
Mm.
Plus, half of us gonna be wealthy, so you know how we gonna do. As soon as we get a job, as soon as we get some money, and we ain't going to work.
There you go. That's true.
We not going to work, especially when we in this victim mentality of post traumatic slave disorder.
Mm.
We actually hold more energy to the slave narrative, never knowing that they turned the story around from prisoners of war to servants of a master. And that's how you create a master race. But the master race ain't the ones that they telling you. They using decoys,
Mm.
deceivers, fall guys, crash dummies, stunt dummies. They supposed to take the fall when we wake up because we supposed to be so groggy that everybody screaming kill Whitey think they talk about paleface. Whitey ain't even paleface. He a Moor, according to Black's Law Dictionary,
Yeah.
right? So if the white man is a Moor, who the black man? Amaru. They look alike, but they ain't the same.
Okay.
George Washington challenged in 200 years, you won't know what side of the water you belong to. I know
Mm.
exactly what side of the water I belong to. I'm Mississippi clay dirt walking, organic to the land, sprang from the land like a tree.
Autogenous. Yes.
Been here from the beginning, gonna be here to the end.
Mhm.
So when all of these things is taking place across the land, we've been taught to follow the what's called mainstream narrative because everybody knows it's easier to swim with the current than to go against it.
Absolutely.
But how you get to be a stronger swimmer is you swim against the current.
Mm. Mm.
You might struggle at first, but you're gonna get strong enough to swim against the current. That's the same as you standing there knowing the truth, trying to tell everybody that's thinking you crazy what the truth is, and they looking at you like you from somewhere else,
Right. Right.
right? And you just sound like a babbling idiot, but most people don't know that smart people sound crazy to dumb people. And you living in a system that requires them to use Skinner box technology and Pavlovian response systems to systematically dumb you down in education.
Mhm. Let me
And
ask you a
turn
question.
it,
Sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead.
You mentioned us being, what you say, prisoners of war.
Yes.
How did that come about? Please. I don't want to interrupt your thought, though. I can wait till you finish your thought.
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, so remember, they told us in history class that Columbus was looking for an alternative route to India,
Right.
and that's what they told us, right?
Told us yes.
The first problem is India didn't become India until the 1950s.
Mm.
It was Hindustan for hundreds of years before that.
Okay.
So what India is he looking for? So they are operating under what's called the white man's burden. We call it the doctrine of discovery.
Mm-hmm.
They are in exile following the French Revolution and the Spanish Inquisition, in which they exiled the Islamic Moors from Europe. The first place they exiled them to was Northern Africa, right? And they went to put ships together to do expeditions because they needed a homeland because they wasn't native nowhere. It wasn't nowhere for them to go,
Okay.
right? So under the papal doctrine of discovery, the Pope first gave the Spanish conquistadors permission to settle the Americas,
Mm.
right? And this is Christopher Columbus was actually from the Cologne family, which is one of the secret black nobilities of Europe. That's actually melanated, nappy-head people. And they came over here to establish a home front for the so-called lost tribes of Israel in the Bible. But they
Oh,
made it up. It's all made up.
okay.
And is used for the application of military conquest. Okay, so now that the Spanish conquistadors is heading this way, Christopher Columbus is coming from Spain, being funded by Isabella and Ferdinand. Remember?
Okay. Yes, yes, I remember that.
Okay, now remember what happened when he came back and told them about the Americas and all of that? And not too long after that, they got beheaded. That was part of the rebellion.
Oh.
They was looking for an alternative location to set up shop. The White House is Casablanca. So they used sigil magic in DC and established a White House, a Casablanca, on this land as an embassy. That's why DC is a 10 square mile enclave. It's not a city.
Okay.
It's a city state. It's separate from all of the rest of the stuff on the land. They don't got nothing to do with nobody outside of the 10 square miles of DC. But they tricked us with post office boxes. Because they use the postal zones are the grids for what's called the Plymouth crash. Remember Malcolm say we didn't land on Plymouth Rock landed on us?
Yes.
If you look up Plymouth Rock, it's to commemorate a crash down in the bay by DC, where the embassy at. Crash site, ground zero.
Wow.
And they came to law the flag. Now they wage a war on us with the Spanish and the English gentry. These are your British nobles that's also being exiled and they still look like us. But they ain't us. They move up into New Jersey and upstate New York and gated communities and they talk about us like we are animals on the farm.
Wow.
The only time they associate with us is when they think we about to figure out who they is. They need to cause a rebellion and they come and incite us to riots, tribal conflicts between the different tribes, stuff like that. That's their job. It's told about by the FBI is what's called the FBI informant program. Right? And also they had what's called the COINTELPRO infiltration program.
Yeah.
And they wasn't using pale faces to infiltrate our organizations. Most of us believe that the ADL and the JDL is pale face Jews. They just a cover story.
Okay.
The real.
I agree. I've
right?
been in situations. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but to us it just sounds like gibberish,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a language.
And it's literally a language. And I've been in situations where people were speaking in tongues, or what we called an unknown ancient tongue, in the church, and somebody would stand up and actually interpret it, and the congregation agrees because their spirit agrees with the interpreter. And I thought, wow, that's so powerful.
And that do not come from the Christian church.
Okay.
So speaking in tongues in the Bible is the ability to speak foreign languages.
Mm-hmm.
Linguistics. The word that they translate as tongues is lingua.
Okay.
So linguistics, just the tone, the texture of the voice.
Mm.
Right. So the language of the foreign people, they got a different texture.
Okay.
Spanish people roll their R's off the front of their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Arabic people comes from the deep part of their throat with their ka sounds. Right. Two different parts of the tongue is primarily used. So you're talking about the difference in the languages.
Okay.
Right. And in the book, it tells them that when the Holy Ghost, when the Spirit came over the apostles, and they received the gift of tongues, they was able to translate the language of those around them.
Yes.
They didn't say they was going to speak an ancient language that ain't nobody never heard in 20,000 years, and that somebody in the congregation going to jump up that's tied to the bloodline that's going to know the language but don't know why he know it and can't figure out why he know what everything means, but he just going to speak it.
Mm.
But in the voodoo culture, you can see that. In the Santeria, you can see that. Right? In the Obe, you can see that. In the culture, it's there. It's already there. Been there. It ain't new. It's ancient. It's paintings on the walls all over the world of that same culture.
Mm.
But we can't equate the paintings on the wall because they disassociated from us to know that them was our ancestors that we was painting on the wall for you to remember who you was coming out of amnesia at the close of the age of Pisces, because they can't keep us perpetually idiots.
Okay.
So this is where they say that the Anunnaki was told to give it to the earth, give it all back by the Galactic Council. So if they had to give it back, then they had to find an earthborn heir that was the rightful heir.
Have they done that? Have they found that?
Yeah, it's 12 daughters, which is 12 major matriarchs. Well, it's 13 major matriarchs. The 13th seat is the sacerdotal seat. And the other seats are what you call regional seats for the 12 regions of the earth beyond the seat of the Great Mother. You know the blood right because it'll be tied to finance. So when we tell them, like when I tell them about Empress Redbird, it's because they gave her the documents, the foundational documents that their construct was built on. They surrendered. Here, yes, she got the original allodial title directly from the Rockefellers, who was given the jurisdictional authority to write that BS. So once they gave her that gave the tribes the right to start to reconstitute across the land, go back to our tribal ways, go back to the oral tradition, and finish reclaiming everything by oral tradition.
Wow.
That's why I had the show in 2017 when they staked the totem pole in D.C., because we can't take all of the land back without taking the embassy of the enemy first. Then this shows up on January 6th, where a native trained shaman sat behind Pelosi's desk with the law of the land flag to usurp the admiralty jurisdiction. That shut him down right there. He was there. All you got to do there is be there 30 seconds. He was there at least a couple of minutes. And he was sitting there with his feet up. That means that the territory is now occupied by the corporation is now occupied by the Republic. He's also a Marine Special Forces, white hat operative.
Okay.
That's what he was sent there to do. put the American flag of the land with no gold fringes behind enemy lines, the Admiralty flag,
Ooh.
right? Then what happened? Sipico, the native out of Canada, put the Pope on public notice in native tongue, then translated it into English. And the Pope response was to rescind the discovery doctrine, which is the foundational doctrine of the whole incursion into the Americas.
Wow.
By removing the discovery doctrine, he also removed every treaty that's built on it. That means anything that came after the discovery doctrine has been nullified in law. So then, once that happened, right, and then the only thing I had left to do, I had to find Empress Rarebird. Once I found her, she was able to time what I did in the oral tradition with receipts that they gave her as the response to what I was doing. So now Trump announced that all of the Black American tribes that was formerly not recognized will be recognized under this next upcoming administration.
Wow.
They also was holding sin hearings about a week ago about the rightful heirs of the Cherokee Nation, because under the Cherokee you have different tribes that also have leadership hierarchy, right? But they got to have what's called a prime leader. They know who that is because they gave her the paperwork. So she can bring all of the tribes that wanted to unify and overthrow the corporate system can just tie in the Empress Rarebird and be back in business. Right? A lot of us don't understand that this is ancient tribal tradition. Every 26,000 years, we go through the same thing to rebuild the next future.
Wow. Now, how did they identify Empress Rarebird as the one to whom to give these documents?
They've been watching her whole life. That's like they've been watching you and they've been watching me. And if you think they don't know who he is, then you naive to your enemy. They know who every one of us is. They're following us from birth through our lines because they know who our mothers is. Their only problem is they thought that all of the ones in my generation would be so gung-ho about killing. We kill each other. It won't be one of us that'll be able to help. We the elders now.
Amen. Absolutely.
we the elders now. So we got to do the job of the elders, and that's to tell all of the babies, hey, look, hold up. Y'all got to stop killing each other for a minute. Y'all need to see this. This is what they did. I'm going to tell you exactly how they did it. Who did it? I'm going to show you dirty players confessing.
Yeah.
And once the youth understand that they need us to believe we from somewhere else, to disassociate us from the land, so that they can say that we surrendered the land to a foreign power on the conclusion of war. But when we telling them we know who we is, we was already here, we always been here, gonna always be here. You done killed us, fried us, fricasseed us, turned us into strange fruit, and decorated the South during the Christmas season with the bodies of the chiefs. You done executed chiefs, shot us down in the streets like rabid dogs. You done blew up our families like you did John Africa in Philadelphia. You done sent direct hits on certain people like you did Malcolm X and Clarence 13X, like you did Tupac Shakur, like you did Christopher Wallace. We know what y'all did.
And you killed our babies in the womb before they can get there.
And killing our babies in the womb and torturing the mothers. Right? They doing inappropriate birthing rituals that separates the maternal connection from the child, and then they separate the sisterhood. Because now the woman don't have a sisterhood to balance her energies against some healed women, so she can understand that what she going to is the side effect of them prematurely cutting her baby umbilical cord, and that her baby didn't really die like her chemistry told her, because she seen the doctors when he cut it. But because the baby never got to suck the teeth to circulate the colostrum through the umbilical cord for the chemicals in the placenta to tell the mother to let go so she could send the rest of oxytocin while she watching the baby feed, stimulating the connection between mother and child. Proper parental bonding, pair bonding at birth. But when you interrupt the proper pair bonding, then the mothers go through a crisis, a caregiver crisis, where she can't not quite get her feet under her in her life. They know what they're doing. They're doing it on purpose. You can't tell me they don't know, because I wouldn't know if they didn't know.
Right? Chief, somebody wants to know, how can they find their tribe? This particular person, how do I find my tribe of a Hispanic woman born in Texas? But I think that's a good question for everybody. How can we find our tribes?
The first thing, you can go back as far as you can to a geographical region in your direct lineage. You're gonna run into a dead end because they burnt up a lot of files in churches and office buildings and libraries. They burned them down on purpose so that we can run into a dead end. But that ain't it. Once you get to the last place where you can, that's where they erased you at. Now you go to a map, a tribal map, a pre-1492 tribal map. You can find one on Google. They got a whole lot of them. And look at the geography that you from. And then you can see the different tribes in the general area. You are 9 out of 10, your lineage will trace back to an admixture of tribes from that area. And when you go down there and see them people, you go be like, damn, some of them people was like looking in the mirror, they look so much like me.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Chief, I have a lot of European friends who really enjoy this type of information. And then I have some that feel a little uncomfortable because they don't understand the necessity of expressing our concern about being lied to, that we are the, autogenous copper color races found here by Columbus. They don't understand.
Everybody not supposed to. Everybody not supposed to get it. It ain't. It's our job to get it. It's their job to watch it. What happened once we realize.
Okay.
Once they see that we realize the real lies, and they see us moving accordingly, we starting to come together now. Right? We started to greet each other different on the streets now because we in the awareness of that they want us to hate each other so bad that they put every kind of device or divide and tactic in our community.
Yes.
In the generation my mama came from, siblings was fighting over who the light-skinned sibling versus who the dark-skinned sibling.
Yeah.
And I seen my uncles and my mom and them having that conflict. I went to intervene. My mama told me, you stay out of that. That's before your time. You got a whole nother fight to fight. You ain't got time to be worrying about who light-skinned and who dark-skinned in the family.
Okay.
And I was like, yes, ma'am. And I got a relationship with all my cousins that whenever we see each other, it's all love.
Yeah.
On sight. And we huggers. We huggers. So yeah, and ain't nobody in my family gonna hug you if they don't like you. They just not gonna do it. That's just how the whole family wired on both sides, my mama and my daddy family. We ain't finna be hugging people we don't care nothing. I ain't feeling you like that. I don't want you that close to me. But if we give you a hug, you gonna know we mean it because you gonna feel it. You gonna feel it.
I'm working on that. I'm working on that because there are some certain people that I know don't have my best interest at heart, but I'm like, just to save face, I'm gonna go ahead and grit my teeth and hug you. You know what I'm saying?
Ain't nothing wrong with you letting them kiss your hand.
Your darling.
Yeah. Hey, look, Sophia Loren did it with her passing ass. Hollywood's first sophisticated lady. The most classiest out of all of the actresses. How do you get to be the classiest of the classy? Gotta have some soul in your blood, baby.
Right?
It's natural. right? The
Mm.
noble character it betrays the royal blood.
They're saying
Yeah,
kiss the ring.
yeah. Look, look. And then you let your family know that if there's got somebody with them that you don't want to hug, you ain't hugging nobody. Your family already know what's up,
They
so
really
they
do.
they won't feel no type of way because they know that you don't just want no any of your body infected you with their rotten ass energy. Let them kiss you. Curtsy. And let them kiss your hand.
You said curtsy.
Yeah. Hit him with an Abel Gabor, darling.
Darling. I love it, darling.
Look, ain't nowhere I've been read a whole bunch of books of life and I haven't seen where it was ordered for nobody to be an ass kisser.
Mm.
It's not in nobody book of life. Some people behave like it's in there, but it's not even in theirs. They just
Mm.
behave that way.
Mm.
Brown nose and shoe shuffling for somebody to look at them and give them some favor. Don't give me no favor. I'm gonna find me a way.
Somebody's this. I'm gonna take this person up on their comment. Her Grace Empress Kia Pruitt, darling.
Yeah, you ain't got don't mix your energy. Don't let them people contaminate your energy.
I can dig it.
Especially when you coming from the true place and the pure heart with no ill intentions, and you feel that nope, that's your ancestors telling you don't you touch that motherfucker. Don't let him be rubbing his nasty ass heart chakra up against your purified energy.
Ooh, ooh wee. Mm,
Tell you get seduced by vampires, blood sucking
absolutely.
haters.
Mm, mm.
All vampires don't suck blood, some suck energy.
Wow, wow.
They see you in a good mood, they ain't happy till you get pissed off.
True.
And you got people that live in the house with them and call them husband and wife.
Preach.
They can't. If it get peaceful around there, they unrest sets in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's not normal. People think it's normal,
Yeah, they do.
but their relationships is based on slave system.
Mm.
That's why they think the marriage license give them the right to own the other person. I signed that paper. I own your ass. No, you
Stay right
don't.
there, Chief. That's what you know. I did learn that the marital contract is a contract between the two entities, and the state and God is nowhere in that contract.
Not at all.
Mm,
The tribal marriages is always for a reason. The love is the added bonus. But
okay.
normally they arranged. In the people arrangement, they know the character and the nature of the persons that they arranging the marriage with.
Okay.
So they know that based on how this person operate, based on how that person operate, and they move in a similar, they'll make a good couple,
Mm,
right? They'll be a strong, powerful parental unit to
mm,
usher in a matriarchal with a controlled patriarchal presence. Because the whole thing under the matriarchy, the patriarchs is not as nice as they is now.
mm.
They sissified under the patriarchy. They become more aggressively protective of the women and the children under the matriarchy. They become
Really?
more calculated, more focused on functional relationships under the matriarchy. And it allows
What?
the woman to shift out of war mode and
Mm,
shift into love mode.
mm.
And it settles the temperatures and the weathers of the earth and it becomes more tropical around the planet. The
Wow.
energetic shift. It's the golden age.
Wow.
So as it ramps up, you will see that the winters in the north will be less cold and shorter duration, and the summers will be less hot and unbearable, and they'll start to normalize into a similar temperature, and deserts will start to spring up grass and trees.
Wow.
And we gonna help it because one of the programs of our can't wait for is the reforestation of the fruit forests.
Mm.
All of the children and tribes, they tribal have a tribal elders that bring them in the summertime or the springtime, and we just plant trees for a couple weeks at the beginning of every spring. And then if somebody get lost in that forest, they can eat damn near anything in there.
That's beautiful. Do
Yeah.
you foresee that happening in our time, in our lifetime, Chief?
Well, you already have some people doing it on a smaller scale.
Okay.
There's a lady in Arizona that's doing it, having she's turning desert into lush
Mm-hmm.
food producing environment, and it's
Okay.
working. It's working. It works. We know it
Oh.
works.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier that we're all, many of us are about to become wealthy. Can you speak on that a little bit? Like, where's that wealth coming from? How, how do you know this? What do we
So
need to do?
okay, so in the Indigenous Rights Act, they gave us all of the wealth back.
Okay.
It's written. It's in ink.
Mm.
All we had to do was identify it to activate it under the oral tradition.
Okay.
So it's been identified, and the fact that the United States Treasury moved to tribal land is a significant moniker to tell us that the tribes is in control of the currency.
Ooh, okay.
Now we got to switch from Federal Reserve notes over to United States Treasury notes.
Okay.
And the person that they have to contact who has the banking codes in their DNA is Empress Rarebird. Once they get ready to activate the new system, they have to use her genetic code to unlock the combination lock.
Mm.
They already told her that it's all in the DNA.
Mm. That reminds me of Princess Elizabeth, a person that I interviewed a couple of times that said the same for her in the Philippines. And it's this kind of stuff, like, we've never
It's
been
true,
taught this.
but
Say
it's
it
true
again.
though. It's true.
Okay.
Okay, so you got 12 regions. The Philippines and a lot of those Pacific islands, they have a series of big mamas, right,
Okay.
or clan mothers, and then they all among themselves have one with the blood that's closer to the matriarch that founded that settlement over there.
Mm.
And she becomes the blood heir. They've been knowing who he was for the whole time. They never been sleep to who he was. We just didn't know.
Right. Okay.
They followed all of the chosen ones, the ones that they can convince one of us to kill got murdered.
Mm.
Right? The goal was is to always keep the leadership down, stop them from having competent leaders. And when a competent leader come up, if you can't kill them, because some of us is persona non grata, hands off, you can't touch them.
Mm.
Right? And some of us, they got a period of time where we touchable, but if they don't recognize us as the budding chief, and we get to reach a certain age, now we persona non grata, they can't touch us. Because they
Okay.
got to give the next generation of chiefs the opportunity to look over the history records and determine who we are versus who they are, and if you can see the difference in two people operating as one group of people with two different agendas,
Mm.
right? And I didn't show people videos of them in the gated communities talking about us bad. They don't want us nowhere around them.
Mm.
But people think that they us because they look like us,
Mm.
but they ain't us. You don't believe me? Ask Kendrick. He'll tell you they not like us.
They not like us. There's a book out that one of my professors had us to read, and he was a well-known Boule member, and it was called Our Kinds of People. And it was about elite people that look like us, but they let you know we don't mess with y'all folk.
Yeah, well, you got to remember that they have melanated people like us coming from foreign places that's classified as white in this government.
Mm. Okay.
It was a big deal about an Arab guy who sued them because he ain't want them to look at him as separate from us. He wanted to be looked at. I'm gonna be black too. All the
Wow.
people over there look like me. Y'all call them black people, but then y'all call the people that don't look like me white people. He ain't knowing it had nothing to do with the genetics. It had everything to do with invaders, the white man, chest turn. Black is the defenders, chest turn.
Hmm.
In legalese, the descriptive analysis, black is civilly mortis. Why? Because we presume dead and lost at sea. How are we dead and lost at sea when we own the land? Well, where did they get a salvage right from?
Hmm.
The salvage right gave rise to the squatter rights, which allowed people to just go set up shop on somebody's land like it was theirs. That was the squatter rights. That was issued as an addendum, right, to the salvage right. What is the salvage right? The right to recover the lost property,
Hmm.
right? Who is the lost property? The jewels of God. We God's jewelry, but it ain't the men. It ain't the men.
Hmm.
And the part about it that most people can't swallow is the real God man is the God man that's man enough to tell you God a woman. Always have been, always gonna be. You can dress all of these precepts and drag as much as you want. You still not gonna make them be the God woman
Hmm.
because they don't got no uterus. They don't got no portal. They disqualified from the function by prostate reference.
Hmm.
They was denied the uterus,
Hmm.
so they gave them a prostate to replace it.
Okay. They who they gave him a prostate to replace them. Who's they?
The women that created the men.
Hey. Okay.
The women that created it. Because when God, if God made man in His image, then God is a woman. Man is just a woman inside out.
Yeah.
The coochie fell
And you
out. That's why they
said
be
he.
acting like they coochie fell out. That's why some of them be acting like bitches.
Okay. Chief, under the matriarchy, men are respected. Is that correct?
Yeah, men is the strong arm of the matriarch. It's just like daddy at home,
Mm.
right? But daddy is really at home. Daddy about that life.
Okay. Okay.
Daddy thug style. Daddy will bust a cap in your ass about this wife and these babies.
Oh, yeah.
And the sad part about it is you don't know he taught the whole team to be a shooter. So
Mm.
you don't know where the bullet gonna come from in this gathering of old men.
Mm.
You leave the family alone. We important too.
Yeah.
But there's just that the proper structure for the correct reclamation of the land
Mm.
ties to the earth's contract of the gender of female. You gotta remember earth is female. Luna
Yeah.
is female.
Yes.
The other controlling moon, Lilith, is female.
Mm.
Right? So the dominant forces of the earth is feminine. From the dark feminine to the light feminine.
Absolutely.
So when you resurrect from the darkness and step into the light, you got the knowledge of both.
Mm.
But if you live all your life walking in the light, you will never know what it's like to be exposed to the dark.
Wow.
And that's why we end up going through struggle. Struggle is the weightless in this life force resistance exercise.
Mm.
You can't improve who you is unless you go through something that compels you to change.
Right.
Struggle is the fertilizer.
Mm. Mm.
It
Absolutely.
fertilizes the propensity to change.
Mm. Thank you, Chief. Do you have any time to answer some questions, Chief?
Yeah, we ask you questions.
Okay. Somebody wants to know, um, Chief, do we need to sign paperwork? Do we need paperwork?
That's a trap.
Okay.
I'm tell you out the gate. When they get to telling you that you're gonna be sovereign if you sign this paperwork, first of all, sovereigns don't use paperwork.
Mm.
They
Okay.
dictators. So in your sovereign capacity, you dictate who you is to the public.
Mm. Wow.
You don't
Okay.
need no paperwork.
Mm.
Your family know who you are. They the ones who legitimizes you on the land when
Mm.
you from the land. And then if you what they call an immigrant, a tribe gonna adopt you. We don't have orphans.
Oh wow.
Nobody is supposed to be separate without a tribe on the land. Everybody got to tie you into a tribe.
Wow. Okay.
So when everybody tied into the, because remember, we didn't have grocery stores. So the goal is to be able to make sure that under the matriarchy, the first three things that the government is responsible for is food, clothing, and shelter.
Mm.
Everybody had to have equal access to food, clothing, and shelter.
Okay.
Ain't no such thing as homeless because we ain't had it before